The silent orchestra. Evelyn had always been drawn to the unknown. Growing up in a small, quiet town nestled in the hills, she often found herself wandering the streets and fields, seeking adventure in the midst of isolation. But the mansion on the outskirts of town was a place she always avoided. Its looming silhouette, draped in thick vines, had an aura of something forbidden, something that drew people in only to swallow them whole. The townsfolk spoke of it in hushed whispers, warning her to never step foot inside. It was said to have once belonged to a renowned composer, Arthur Ravenshaw, who vanished mysteriously 50 years ago. Some claimed he had gone mad, others said he was taken by the very melodies he'd composed, leaving only unfinished symphonies scattered around his home. But no one truly knew what had happened to him. The mansion stood silent, its windows like black eyes staring out into the wilderness. One evening, unable to resist the pull of the legend any longer, Evelyn set out toward the mansion. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the crumbling path leading to the front door. Her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and dread, but she pushed forward, her curiosity burning like an unquenchable fire. When she reached the front door, it creaked open under her touch, as if inviting her in. The air was thick with dust, and the floorboards groaned beneath her feet. Yet, the most peculiar thing was the silence. There was no sign of life, no rats scurrying, no wind rattling the windows. It was as if time itself had come to a halt. That's when she heard it. A faint melody drifted through the air, ethereal and haunting. It was as though a symphony was being played somewhere deep within the mansion, the notes soaring through the empty halls. But there was no musician in sight. No instruments. Only the sound of music. Evelyn's pulse quickened. She followed the melody, drawn toward its source. The deeper she ventured into the mansion, the more intense the music became. It was as if the entire house was alive with it, vibrating with energy. Finally, she arrived in a grand, dimly lit room. A large grand piano sat in the center, its keys untouched. But the music grew louder, swirling around her like a living thing. The notes flowed through her, their sound rich and full, but they were not played by any instrument she could see. It was as though an invisible orchestra was performing just for her. Evelyn stood frozen, transfixed by the haunting sound, until a chill swept through the room. Her breath caught in her throat as she turned to see a shadow standing by the piano. A man, pale and thin, his features sharp and angular, dressed in an old-fashioned tuxedo. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his expression was one of intense longing. "You hear it too," he said, his voice echoing in the room, a soft, mournful tone. Evelyn stepped back, heart hammering in her chest. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling.
You hear it too. I was once Arthur Ravenshaw, the composer whose music you hear. But it is not merely music, it is my soul trapped in this house, unfinished. I died before I could complete my last
The
symphony.
music swelled, filling the room, and Evelyn felt a strange pull toward it. She reached out, her fingers grazing the air as if she could touch the sound itself. "What happened to you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
The music it consumes, it is both my gift and my curse. I tried to create a symphony so perfect that it would transcend time, a composition that would bind me to eternity. But when I finished the last note, I was taken. Now I am in this place, wants to play the symphony over and over, but I cannot complete it, not without help.
Evelyn's heart ached. There was something deeply tragic in his words, something that called to her. She wanted to help him, to give him the peace he seemed to long for. "I'll help you," she said before she could stop herself. Arthur's eyes gleamed with a glimmer of hope. "You must play the last note. Complete the symphony, and I will be free." The room grew still, and Evelyn could almost feel the weight of the unfinished music pressing against her chest. She felt a sudden surge of determination. She would do it. She would help him. But as she stepped closer, she felt a cold, creeping presence. The music grew frantic, the notes twisting in a way that unsettled her. The room seemed to shrink, the walls pressing in as if the house itself was alive, breathing in time with the music. Suddenly, she understood. The music was not a mere melody, it was a living force, and it had its own will. The symphony, unfinished as it was not something to be completed. It was something to trap those who tried to finish it, to claim their very souls. Evelyn staggered backward, her heart pounding in terror. "What is this?" she gasped. Arthur's form flickered again, becoming more translucent. "The price of helping me is your soul. You will become part of the symphony, and your essence will be woven into the music forever." Evelyn's mind raced. She had been so consumed by the music, so determined to help, that she had overlooked the terrifying truth. The symphony was not a gift. It was a curse. She turned to flee, but the air around her thickened, the notes wrapping around her like chains. The invisible orchestra grew louder, drowning out her thoughts, until the only sound she could hear was the relentless music. The walls pressed in, the mansion closing around her as she struggled to escape. But it was too late. Every note drew her deeper into the music, every passing second binding her closer to the symphony, until her vision blurred and her body became weightless. In the end, Evelyn became part of the composition, her soul forever entwined with the haunting melodies that filled the abandoned mansion. The music would never end, and neither would she.